Parashat Shemini, Shishi. This aliyah is a bit long. It discusses kosher animals, the domestic animals, the wild animals, kosher fish that swim in the water, the kosher birds that fly, and obviously the insects, that creepy crawlies that crawl on the ground. Some of them might be kosher. The end of the aliyah also talks about tum'at sheretz. So let's get a little more detail. The Torah begins, Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe ve'el Aaron lemor alehem. Hashem speaks to Moshe and Aaron to tell the people what they're allowed to eat. Daber el bnei Yisrael lemor. Speak to the people. This is the kosher animals that you can eat. Kol mafreset parsa v'shosa'at shesa. The animal has to, number one, we're talking here about real animals, they have to be split hooves. Mafreset parsa v'shosa'at shesa parasot. Rashi explains that some animals have half split hooves. On the top they're split, but on the bottom they're connected. That's not good enough. It has to be mafreset parsa, split on the top, v'shosa'at shesa parasot, and split on the bottom as well. Split hooves completely. That's condition number one. Condition number two, ma'alat gera b'be'ema, they have to also be chewing that's cut, they're cut. That's what we call in English, where the food, it processes the food twice. It goes down, comes back up, they process it again. If an animal has these two conditions, kosher to eat. If an animal only has one, not kosher. And of course, if it has none. And the pasuk actually describes that there are 4 animals in the world which have one and not the other. The first one is the camel. The pasuk describes in pasuk Dalet, et hagamal, the camel, ma'ale gerahu. It chews its cud, but it doesn't have split hooves. Tameh lachem, you're not allowed to eat it. Then it goes on to say shafan. Okay, shafan, here there's a discrepancy what the name of this animal. People usually say shafan is the rabbit. It's not a rabbit. The article gives a word for it. They use the word hyrax. Hyrax. They say it's not a regular rabbit. A regular rabbit has longer ears. This is a rabbit family, but smaller ears. And this shafan, basically, it chews its cud. It does not have the split hooves. Tameh. The next thing is the arnevet, and this is a rabbit or a hare. The article also is not sure. The article goes on actually to say that we don't really know the difference between these, and today we're not exactly sure what these things are. Something from the rabbit family. Again, it chews its cud, does not have split hooves. Tameh. And then the famous chazir, and this one is different, that it has split hooves, but it doesn't chew its cud. The famous pig, which is, of course, asur to eat. Not only that, that Rashi points out that the pig sits and crouches with its feet, split hooves in front of it, to show off as if it's kosher, but really it's not kosher at all. All other animals, not kosher. Fish, the pasuk says, pasuk tet, et zeh tochilu mikol asher b'mayim. What are you allowed to eat from the water? Snapir v'kaskeset b'mayim. Fins and scales. Anything that doesn't have fins and scales, asur. Has fins and scales, mutar. Birds, the pasuk Yud Gimel goes on to say, Ve'et elet shakatzum min ha'of. Now here you have something interesting. There's no simanim. There's no ways to tell what's kosher, what's not. It just goes through by name, the non-kosher animals. And it lists 20 non-kosher animals. The orev, the raven, the nesher, the eagle, and others. Another list of 20 names. And everything else kosher. So that's great for us. There's many species of birds that are kosher according to this. But in Shulchan Aruch it says that we're not sure exactly which ones are kosher, which ones are not kosher. And therefore, unless you have a tradition perfectly that this is kosher, like chicken and duck, things like that, you cannot eat it. So most birds we're not allowed to eat today. The ones that we know for sure, that yes. The pasuk ends off with sheretz ha'of. These are little bugs, flies, mosquitoes, and grasshoppers that are all asur to eat. Pasuk chav, kol sheretz ha'of ha'olech al labas sheketz odachem. You're not to eat any creepy bugs. But there are some that you can. Which ones? Certain species of grasshoppers. Pasuk chav bet, et ele mehem tochelu, et ha'arbe lemino. There are certain grasshoppers you're allowed to eat. The pasuk describes them. Again, here also, we don't really have a great tradition about what's mutar, what's asur. And unless you have a good tradition, don't eat them. At the end of the Aliyah, we end off with what's called the shratzim. V'zeh lechem hatameh. There are certain bugs which obviously they're not kosher to eat, but added to not being kosher, if you touch them, you also become tameh. And you have to dip in the mikveh. And it lists 8 shratzim. V'zeh lechem hatameh. This is the famous Shmona shratzim, the 8 shratzim, which is a Mishnah in Taharot, where it describes the chole, the achbar, the tzav. Again, we don't really know exactly what these are, but if one touches them, he becomes tameh. Not only the Aliyah ends off, not only a human touches them, even a wooden vessel, or a beged, or an od, or a sack, or a sack, any kli which touches these things become tameh and defiled, and they need to go into a mikveh. They go into a mikveh, they wait till evening, and then they become tahor.